Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor. Do you know, over the next few minutes, you are going to have some absolutely incredible information shared with you. Do you know, I could go back many years, 55 years ago. I was one lost soul. I was sitting in a fire hall in the suburb of Toronto, and a man gave me this book, and he said, if you do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Well, I didn't believe that, but I believed he believed it. And so I thought, I'm going to do exactly what he says. I have never looked back. I have earned millions of dollars. I've had an absolutely phenomenal life, and it just keeps getting better. I have no intentions of slowing down. I'll be 82 here in a day or two, and it just keeps getting better. I got the energy of somebody that's 32. And you know, what you're going to hear over the next few minutes is the essence of everything that I've studied over the past 50 years. Listen really carefully to what they're going to explain to you over the next few minutes. And if you're wise, if you've got your ear to the ground, you're going to see how your results will change dramatically. How you can multiply your income, you can improve your relationships, and you can live in a healthy body. I have studied for a long time. These people have got the answers for you. Listen carefully to them.
Okay, thank you to Bob. Let's just make sure you can see these slides. Okay. Right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the seminar. What a delight it is to be here. I'm especially excited for this webinar, and the reason is I love presenting this because you are about to go on an amazing journey, and that journey is going to be a journey of what I would call awareness. Now, I always say one thing at the start of every event, and that is that I'm not a motivational speaker. I think if I was one, I'd probably do okay, but I'm not one. And the reason I say that is because I don't want to get up here and motivate you. I don't even really like that word. And the reason I don't want to come up here and motivate you is, what use would that really be long term for you? I'm sure since you've made the effort to come to this webinar, you obviously want to develop yourself, you want to grow, you want to get results, and that's really where my heart lies, getting results, and more than that, getting results that stick. Now, the reason I say this isn't a motivational webinar is because I am here to serve you. That's what I do. And I want to inspire you to pull from within the greatness that you already possess. Now, yeah, that probably is a motivational quote, but this is not like every other motivational event you've been to where you go and yes, you feel ready to kick ass and you're ready to go home and put stuff in place and make the money and you're like, yes, let's do this. And then you get back home, you get back to the office the next day and you've got to catch up on all the stuff you missed the day before. And then the next day comes and you've got to do the stuff that you've put down to do that day, and then the next day comes and the next, and before you know it, you're right back to where you were again, and those motivational levels have dropped, and I'm sure you can all relate to that. So I'm not going to do that to you, okay? And I pride myself on that. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, what am I here for then? Well, I said you were on a journey during this presentation, and I don't know if anyone here is like me, but I am just a compulsive learner. I was the one at school that everyone else used to get mad with because I asked a lot of questions, and everyone else wanted to leave or go out to break, and the teacher was still answering questions from me. Same with meetings when I got a job. You know, when I was in employment, everyone else was wanting a short meeting, and I was the one asking questions and wanting to know what the plans were exactly and how things were going to work exactly. And I've always craved learning more. I've just been one of those people that wants to learn all the time, wants to progress all the time, whether that was learning new skills at work so I could be promoted, or doing open university courses at home, going to evening and weekend classes at college, doing online training courses. You know, I've always been doing things like that. And that's partly because I get bored. if I stay at the same thing for too long. But it's also a real deep-seated need in me to be independent. I am fiercely independent. I hate having to ask someone else to do something for me. I just have this desire to understand how to do things myself, and I get really frustrated if I don't understand how to do something or why something is the way it is. And, you know, I don't want to have to rely on anyone else telling me what to do or doing it for me, because what happens when that person's no longer there, or if they're not around to ask? So I'm going to treat you the same. I'm going to treat you with that same respect. Now, there are going to be some things I'm going to say today that you will have heard before, but there will also be other things that I know without a shadow of a doubt are going to blow your mind. And you're going to thank me for that. So let me quickly introduce myself. Some of you will know me, some of you don't. Some of you know me a little bit, some of you don't know me at all. But my name's Anna Hague, and I have many different titles now, as you can see on the slide. So the top one is I am a mindset development professional in human potential and growth. Now, isn't that a title? I don't put it on my business cards because it probably wouldn't fit, but that's my official current professional title. You know, I've got lots of titles, and I don't want to bore you too much with stuff about me, but I'm also a Proctor Institute consultant, and I'm sure that most of you here have heard of Bob Proctor, which is always good. Saw him at the beginning of the video, so if you didn't know who he was before, that's who Bob is. And I'm also the director of my own company, Invictus Limited. And I've actually been in my business, I've been in business for myself now for about 13 years. And I actually used to be a chartered management accountant by profession. Now, you see the name of my company is Invictus, and Invictus is the Latin for unconquerable or undefeated, and that's actually the title of an amazing poem. If you've never heard of it before, I would highly recommend you look it up on the internet. You've maybe heard of the Invictus Games, which was founded by Prince Harry, but have a look for this poem. It's called Invictus, and it's by William Ernest Henley, and I always have a copy of it up on the wall when I do seminars, because I think it's a really good, a really inspirational poem, and it actually says a little bit about me, which you can tell yourself. You know, if it's called unconquerable or undefeated, that's kind of, you know, that says a bit about me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some stories as we go through tonight, because you don't know me really, and let's be honest, none of you probably really care. But in order for me to be able to help you the best way, I've got to be able to tell you a little bit about who I am and where I've come from and how all this has helped me. And I think you're going to be able to relate to a lot of what I've got to say. So, as I say, I was a bit of a swot at school. I was one of those really lucky people who enjoyed school. I was quite academic, really enjoyed learning, so I managed to get pretty good grades. And I was an absolute model child. You know, I was one of those that never got into trouble. I was super polite. All the parents at school loved me. The teachers loved me, and I loved them. I played 5 different musical instruments. I was leader of the orchestra. I was in all the sports teams. I got on with everyone. Never really had any problems with bullies. I was just kind of friends with everybody. I really couldn't have asked for a better childhood. You know, it was probably quite perfect from what other people would say. And I went through school doing really well, and it was just expected that I would go to university. You know, I expected it, my parents expected it, the teachers expected it. I was going to do French and law, and I was really looking forward to it. And then in 1993, I experienced my annus horribilis. You know, our Queen talks about 1996 being her annus horribilis. That was the year that Princess Diana died, and the royal family was in a bit of a meltdown situation. Well, 1993 was my annus horribilis. I was just 18, going on 19, and in that 1 year, in those 12 months, lots of different things happened to me. So the first thing that happened was I found out my dad was having an affair with his secretary, which led to my mum and dad, who'd been married for 20 years, separating. My mum had what a lot of people would class as a nervous breakdown. So I had to look after her. This was during my A-level year. So I was kind of looking after her, looking after my little brother, who took it all really badly. I suffered my first bereavement shortly after that when my granddad died. That was my dad's dad died, and I'd never experienced a bereavement before. So that happened. Then later in the year, I nearly died when my appendix burst, which left me with peritonitis, and I was in intensive care for about 3 weeks. And they literally did think that I was going to die. But I got through that. And then when I came out of hospital, I found out that my boyfriend that I'd been with for 2 years, my first love, who I was absolutely besotted with, been with him for 2 years, found out that he had actually been sleeping with my best friend for those 2 years. So all in all, not the greatest of years. And then to top it off, my school decided they weren't going to let me sit the A-levels that I'd been studying for because they thought it would be too stressful for me with everything else that had gone on. So they were going to make me stay an extra year at school. Now, needless to say, all these negative events sparked a change inside me. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but I had my own paradigm shift during that year. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Some of you might already know what I'm talking about. But at 18, I made a decision that I was going to take control of my life. I was sick of all these things happening to me that felt like they'd been completely out of my control. And, you know, most importantly, I decided I was never going to let anyone else's decisions affect how my life turned out. So I decided I wasn't going to university, much to the disgust of my teachers and my dad. You know, I sat my A-levels anyway, even though they told me that they didn't want me to, and then I went out to get a job. And, you know, this did not go down well at all with anybody. My dad was just disgusted. The teachers were up in arms. My mum was so caught up in her own kind of emotional trauma that I don't think she really had an opinion. But I basically made this sudden about turn because of what had happened that year. So left school, I ended up working at our local airport. I just went for 6 months just as a kind of, just to try out work, to use my languages a little bit. And I just wanted to get away from the school system. I just needed a complete change, basically. And I went for 6 months to work at the airport, and I ended up staying 5 years, as you do. And then when I was about 24, I had another awakening. I had worked my way up to being what they called a load controller at the airport, in charge of dispatching flights. And, you know, by this point, I was just spending all day being shouted at, being spat at, being, you know, sworn at by abusive passengers. I had to deal with delays and missing baggage and all sorts of things, all sorts of, you know, sorting problems out for people. And then this one particular day, a passenger whose suitcase was missing got hold of me by my coat collar and held me up against a wall and threatened to punch me. And I remember thinking at that time, as I was kind of hanging against the baggage hall wall, it was about 11:30 at night. I should have gone home 2 hours before. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time for another change. So I went to see a recruitment agent, and I told them that I really wanted to work for myself one day. You know, it was what my dad had always done. We'd always had family friends that worked for themselves. And I wanted to be my own boss. But I worked for an airline doing customer services. I had absolutely no idea how that would even be possible from where I was. I just didn't know. All I knew was that I wanted to have my own business one day. They gave me a list of 6 or 7 professions. And they said, you know, if you want to work for yourself, having a profession is the best way to do that. So they gave me 6 or 7 professions and told me to pick one. And I just picked accounting because I knew I was fairly good with numbers. You know, the other ones looked like they'd take a long time. There was solicitor and dentist and all those kind of things. And I thought, they look like they're going to take a long time to learn. So I literally just picked accounting off this list. And what happened was the recruitment agent found a huge company that had an accounts department and also had a customer service department, because that's what I was used to. So they got me a job as a customer service agent in that company, told them I wanted to be an accountant, and the company paid for me to train and qualify as a chartered management accountant, and they moved me into their accounts department. So they were brilliant for me. It was an amazing company. I ended up being the UK financial accountant for that company, and I worked there for about 8 years before finally leaving to have my first daughter in 2006. And that's when I decided it was time to start my own business. You know, I'd learned what I needed to learn. I'd got the experience I needed to get, I felt, and so I decided that was a time to start my own business. Now, I ran that business for, well, I still have the odd client now, so it's been running for about 13 years, but I know how easy it is to almost fall into a career and then get stuck in it, or fall into a job and then get stuck in it. I'd done it with the airport. I only intended to go there for 6 months. I ended up staying 5 years. I did it with the accounting. I just kind of picked something because it was a means to an end, because I wanted to work for myself. You know, I never thought to myself, God, I'd love to be an accountant one day. That never crossed my mind. It was literally a means to an end. So, you know, I just did what I thought was a good idea at the time, and I ended up in this role that I just stayed in. I didn't really love it. In fact, to be honest, I didn't really enjoy it at all. I just kind of stayed in it because that's what I'd been doing for all these years. And, you know, I enjoyed working for myself with the accountancy practice. I enjoyed being able to work when and where I wanted, but I didn't enjoy what I was actually doing for people. And, you know, I used to go in some places that call me the Grim Reaper, because, you know, I always brought, nobody wants to know how much tax they owe. You know, they're paying you because they have to have their accountants and tax returns done. They don't really love to see you. And so many people kind of fall into a particular field or industry or role and just stay there. You know, they don't particularly enjoy it. They just don't know what else they could do. And that's where I was. So I was in this business that I'd fallen into accounting just so that I could work for myself. Then I'd gone to set it up as a business. But I just didn't enjoy the actual work that I was doing. And that's where I was about 3 years ago when I found Bob Proctor. And, you know, I'd been trying for so long to make this business work, to earn the money I really wanted to be earning, because I'd thought that working for myself, I could make tons of money. You know, that was the thing to do. But it just wasn't working. And I'd done so many courses on marketing and Google ads and Facebook ads, and how to create online courses and how to speak to sell and how to create profitable events, you know, just tens of thousands of pounds on all this training, and nothing had worked. You know, I'd implemented most things. Some of the, you know, some courses I'd done and never really got to the end. Some things I had got to the end and I'd implemented, but nothing seemed to work. You know, I was just about making ends meet, but we had a ton of debt from when I'd started my first business, and we had no way of paying it off. And, you know, I'd heard the law of attraction being bandied about, and obviously I'd been in business a long time, so I'd seen loads of different gurus talking about it. And I kind of felt like maybe there was something in it, but to me it just sounded like a load of old rubbish. I was just not into that kind of thing at all. You know, I was an accountant, very logical minded. You know, I have to see something to believe it. So the law of attraction thing was just never on my radar. But then about 3 years ago, I just happened to catch the back end of this video on Facebook where Bob was explaining the law of attraction, but he was explaining the science behind it. And something about him grabbed my attention. I don't know to this day what it was, but from that point on, I was absolutely hooked. I found all the videos I could of Bob on YouTube. I downloaded all his audio books and I listened to them on loop. I watched recorded seminars. I did everything that I could without actually having to part with any money, because I didn't have any. Until one day I thought, this is it. You know, I've been looking for someone who can help me decide what it is I really, really want in life. And I'm sure that Bob's the one to help me do it. So I booked an appointment to talk to this guy called Zach about joining Bob's mentorship program. And I told Zach my whole story, and he said, "What is it that you really, really want?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "I don't believe you." And there was kind of this awkward silence. And I thought for a bit, and I said, "I want to be earning six figures." You know, I was saying this really quietly because I didn't really want anybody to hear me saying it. And I said, "I want to be earning six figures. I want to live in a nice, big detached house in a nice area, be able to go out for nice meals, to be able to travel with my family, to be able to give my kids nice things. You know, I just want to feel free and not like I'm banging my head against the brick wall every month trying to pay the bills." And he said, "Well, you've been following Bob for a while now, so why aren't you doing that?" And I said, "I don't know." And Zach said, "You know, if you join this program, we can turn your annual income into your monthly income." And you know, I'd heard all this before. I'd done so many. Oh, I'd joined so many different schemes and programs, and you know, sales funnels and affiliate marketing and all kinds of things to try to earn the money that I wanted. But something told me that they really could help me. And I still don't exactly know what it was, but there was just something about speaking to Zach and about the whole Proctor Gallagher approach and seeing Bob talk that I just knew that they could help me. Now, I knew that the investment for this program was likely to be four figures. And I'd paid four figures in the past for programs and they hadn't worked. I was convinced this would work, but I just had no idea how I was going to get hold of that. And during our conversation, Zach threw another curveball in when he said, "You know, I can tell from speaking to you that you really should be a consultant." And I just thought, wow, well, I knew that the investment for the mentorship program was probably four figures, and the investment to be a consultant was way more than that. So I decided to start with the mentorship program. But you know, I knew that there was no way, or I thought I knew there was no way anyone was going to lend me that money. And Zach just kept saying, "Look, do you want to keep getting what you're getting, or do you really want those things you've just been telling me you want?" And he started telling me how I could be having dinner with Bob Proctor, and he got me imagining mixing with all these amazing, brilliant consultants and turning my annual income into my monthly income and traveling first class with my family, with my kids. And he really got me to start thinking about it. And he said, "Is this something you want to do?" So I said, "Yes, definitely." And he said, "Then make a decision. You know, nothing comes to you until you make the decision. Make a decision that this is what you're going to spend the rest of your life doing. You know, whatever it is that you really want, make a decision. That's what you're going to spend the rest of your life doing. Becoming an expert in Bob's content in this case, and helping other people change their lives. And when you make that decision, the how will start to become clear." Now, I didn't believe that, but I really believed that Zach believed that. So I made the decision. I decided that this was what I wanted to do. The more I thought about it, the more I got emotionally involved with it, the more I pictured it, the more I knew that this was what I wanted to do. And I was going to find a way to do it. So I told Zach to give me a week and I'd speak to him again. And I found the money for the mentorship program. I borrowed the money from a relative for the mentorship program. And I was, you know, a few weeks into it, I was just desperate to become a consultant. I'd already had so many shifts in the first few weeks. I was desperate. But, you know, I already had tons of debt and the investment to be a consultant was just nowhere. I just thought that's just not coming from anywhere. And I'd spoken to him again. And I told him to give me a week and I'd speak to him again. And no word of a lie, I put the phone down, having made this decision that this is what I was going to do. I was going to become a consultant. I put the phone down feeling half excited, half disappointed because, you know, there's no way I wanted to do it. I was excited that I knew what I wanted to do, but disappointed because I didn't know how to do it. And I put the phone down, went to make a cup of tea, and when I came back to my desk, there was an email from a loan company. Now, I get emails from loan companies all the time, you know, hit guaranteed, we'll loan you this amount of money, we'll lend you this amount of money, whatever. But I sat down and read this email, and it was offering, it said that they would guarantee that they would lend my company the exact amount that I needed for the consultancy. And I looked at this email and thought, well, that's strange. Why would I get an email for the exact amount, offering me the exact amount for the consultancy? So I spoke to this company, and they told me to fill in the forms, and I filled in the forms all the time, knowing at the back of my head that it was going to get turned down because I had all this debt. And lo and behold, they agreed the loan. So a few days later, I had the money in my account. I rang Zach back and I said, I don't know how it's happened, because I wouldn't have lent me the money, but I've got the money. So tell me the bank details. I'm going to wire it across, and I need you to teach me. So that's what happened, and everything just took off. Now, you know, again, I'm telling you these stories for a reason. I know that you're not particularly interested in my background, but I guarantee you there are people watching this webinar who either have a feeling that they should be doing something else or want to do something else, but maybe don't know what it is. Or maybe you're in a relationship that you're not thriving in, or maybe you want to be in a relationship and you're not one at the moment, or maybe financially you're not in a good place. So I know that I'm going to talk specifically to every one of you today. And in fact, I know that because everybody on this webinar tonight is here for a reason. Now, I don't know any of you, and I didn't specifically invite any of you. Now, you all either came to this webinar because you've seen an ad, or you've seen it on Eventbrite, or someone told you about it and you came here, or you had done one of those things to get through to one of my challenges, but you've taken time out of your day to come and watch this webinar. And that is incredibly important. I take that so seriously, because I know that you are sitting exactly where you're supposed to be. As we go through this presentation and I start to explain to you how you can turn your life 180 degrees by using these scientific principles of success, you can walk away from this webinar and implement things in your life and make decisions, and that excites me. Now, there are going to be people here for business, because you're interested in growing your business. There'll be people who are interested in developing their own personal growth, in making changes to themselves. There are people here who are interested in improving the relationships, or creating new relationships. So I know we've got a bit of variety here. So I'm really excited for this. The process I'm going to be sharing with you tonight is the same one I used. Okay, so now clearly I'm not in the negative place I was anymore. I'm in a drastically different place. And in fact, my life is so different, you wouldn't even recognize me from a couple of years ago. And it's changed so dramatically because my mentor, Bob Proctor, taught me the system I'm going to show you, and I did what I was told. You know, if nothing else, as I've said before, I'm a bit of a SWAT. I'm a very good follower. I'm an obedient student. And because of that, because I did what I was told, I have now achieved total freedom. I did turn my annual income into a monthly income. I do take luxury summer holidays, and I do take the kids away at Christmas, and you know, all the things that I explained to Zach, they are gradually coming true. And I don't make choices based on how much something costs anymore. I make choices based on what will make me and the people closest to me happy. I serve people all over the world. I do events all over the UK, and I've got the time to do what I want to do with the people that I want to do it with. Now, you know, that might sound like I'm trying to boast or I'm trying to impress you, and I'm not. You know, I love my life, and I love the fact that I'm responsible for achieving what I've got, and that I've got the opportunity to achieve even more. You know, nobody knows what we're capable of, and that excites me, because I know that I'm going to achieve even more than I've got now in the next few years. So as I say, I'm not telling you this to impress you, but to impress on you that if I can do it with 2 really young girls, 2 grown-up stepsons, a dog to walk, a husband that works shifts, a ton of debt, all sorts of things going on in my personal life, and you can do it too. And as I said at the start, you don't really know me, and I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm just asking you to be open to hearing new information. So for the rest of tonight, or today, depending on when you're listening to this, whoops-a-daisy, slides are moving on without me. So for the rest of today, what I want you to do is to take your labels off. So on that screen there, they're all my labels. I've got multiple other labels as well, titles, but they're the kind of main ones. And what I want you to do for the rest of this presentation is take your labels off. And I want you to really think about this, okay? I want you to think about how you describe yourself without saying, I am a. Okay, so, I want you to think about if you took your name away, or your role or your title, or mum or dad or husband or wife or director or employee or whatever titles you've got, take those away. Who are you? Who are you deep inside? Now, somebody asked me that question quite a long time ago, and it really scared me because I didn't have an answer. And I'm going to guess that quite a few of you on this webinar are also a little bit stuck coming up with an answer for that. But you are more than just your name. And I'm going to show you more about that during this webinar. So yes, my life is 100% better now. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, because if I can do it, you can do it. So let's really have a think about why you're here, because it isn't about me. And I'm not going to try and fix you. I'm not going to try and tell you who you are. I can just help you realize who you are. I can help you work out who you are at a soul level. But you've got to think about, what is it that you want? Why are you here? And have you really thought about that? Now, my mentor, Bob Proctor, has been around this material for 58 years now. In fact, his mentor was Earl Nightingale, who you might know as well. And of course, the likes of Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie and all these other great minds. And in fact, it's actually a very short lineage of knowledge and understanding between Bob and the philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. And he's the guy that asked Napoleon Hill to write that fantastic book, Think and Grow Rich, which we use through all our trainings. And, to think I was a person lying in my bed in the middle of the night, watching this guy on YouTube because I couldn't sleep, because I was worrying how I was going to pay the mortgage that month, to now being part of Bob's close group of consultants, to someone that he trusts completely to go out into the world and to impart his teachings and his knowledge, that's still amazing to me. And that's nothing to do with me being smart or being special. It just means that I experienced a shift because I became aware of some vital information that I just wasn't taught at school or at college. And that's what I'm going to share with you during this presentation. Now, Bob's travelled all over the world during all of these 58 years, meeting people, and he likes to ask them, what do you want? What do you want? And if you ever meet him, be prepared, ready, because he'll say, what do you want? What do you really want? And you've got to have an answer, or just be prepared to get out of his way really quickly, because he is deadly, deadly serious about it. And you want to ask yourself that question. Now, those of you who've been in my 5-day challenge this week, we've already asked ourselves this question, but those of you who haven't, those of you who have come from other sources today, when was the last time you asked yourself that question? When was the last time you asked yourself, what do I really, really want? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Because we're always worried about other people. We're always thinking about others and about what other people want. We just don't stop and ask ourselves what we really, really want. Not seriously, not with any intention of actually working towards it. And what Bob found was that there were three main things that people said they wanted when they were really pressed. Now, the first one that he found that people really want is to be free from any financial concern. Now, most people he spoke to, and actually most people I speak to, don't really want to be super wealthy. Most people don't actually say they want to have millions and millions of dollars in the bank because they don't want all the hassle that comes with that. But what they do want is to be financially free. They don't want to be riddled with debts. They want the freedom to be able to take the kids to Disney if they want to, or hop off to London or Paris for the weekend without the kids if they want to, just because they can. You know, to be able to go for a nice meal more often than just birthdays or anniversaries. You know, does that sound familiar to anyone? Now, when you talk about money, people don't like talking about money. And this is something that I have found over the years. And we're going to get to why that is in just a little while. But most people just want to be financially free, and most people aren't. Most people are in the situation where they're trying to save here and there, and you know, they've got spreadsheets coming out of their ears trying to work out which bills to pay when, and we can't do that because Christmas is coming up, and then Christmas comes, and you get through Christmas, which is stressful anyway, and then you've got January, so January's stretched because you just paid for Christmas, and then you get past January and it's like, oh, we can't do that because we've got the summer holidays coming up, and then the holiday's over and you're back to worrying about Christmas again. You know, life is not supposed to be like that. Now, the second thing Bob discovered was that people would really like to be able to wake up every morning enthused about how they're going to spend the day. They want to wake up and be excited to get out and do what they really want to do, to really live, so that work doesn't even feel like work. And the sad thing is, most people don't live like that. In fact, a lot of research has been done on this topic, and the estimate is that over 80% of the population are showing up every day to places they don't really want to be. Now, we trade our time for what we do, and we spend a lot of time in work. And I'm going to guess if you don't want to be there, there's probably other people that don't want to be there. And what do you talk about all day when you get together? Why none of you want to be there? And it's not just work, is it? It's not just during work hours. It's lunch times, nights out. Everyone's talking about why they don't want to be there. You know, and I've been there. In fact, it's one of the biggest things that made me want to leave employment, because I just couldn't bear the negativity. It really brought me down. And it's not that people are just inherently negative. They're just all showing up every day to somewhere they don't really want to be. All of them. So why do you keep doing it? Why do you get up every day and show up somewhere that you don't want to be? So it would be amazing to wake up every day excited about what you were going to do, wouldn't it? So the third thing Bob found was that people want to have more time to spend with friends and family and positive, upbeat people. Now, I'm sure that you love your downtime, the time when you're off, but I'm guessing that it's never really downtime. You know, it's kind of more like collapse time, you know. If you're like me, the way that I used to be, you don't actually have the time you want to be able to do the things you'd really love to do with the people you'd love to do it with. You know, it tends to just be, oh God, what a day. Crack open a bottle of wine. Let's just, you know, vegetate for the next 2 hours. And Bob found that more time to themselves was actually the biggest thing that people want. Comes above money for a lot of people. And that's certainly true with a lot of people I've worked with over the years. Now, the thing is, when you earn more money, you suddenly get way more time and you're able to enjoy your time more. But when you're not having to watch what you're spending and you're not worrying about who you've got to pay and when, and keeping up with spreadsheets and cash books or whatever you use, when you don't have to think about money, you have an awful lot more time. So these three things are what we found that most people really want wherever they are in the world. Now, each one of you will resonate with a different one of these, and sometimes situations are a bit more complex than that, but essentially, these are the three main things that most people want. Now, does everyone here feel like they want to be more, do more, or have more? I'm sure you do, because everybody does, and I'm excited about that because you can. And we're going to get on to why maybe you're not already doing that. Now, I'm going to put you through a little exercise. This is an exercise that I absolutely love to do at events like this. Now, those of you who've been on my 5-day challenge will have already done this exercise, and I want you to do it again, okay? I want you to do it the way we did it the first day, and I want you to take some time out and do it now while you're listening to the webinar. If you need to pause the webinar and do it later. But this is a lovely quote from Albert Einstein. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. What a brilliant quote. And yet not a lot of people really grasp the meaning of it. Now, I could stand up here and talk in really highfalutin language about your higher mental faculties and all this other stuff that we teach, but I'm going to keep it really simple for now. All I will say is logic is a ceiling. Okay, your logic creates a ceiling for you. All right, and I'm going to guess that some people in this room have hit a ceiling. And it might not be that you feel, you know, it might not be that you're really low down, you just don't know how to get higher. You could be at the top of where you think you can go and you've hit the ceiling. And that ceiling is created by your personal logic. Your current logic is telling you that's as high as you can go. So logic will only get you so far. Okay, your logic will only get you so far. Imagination will literally get you everywhere, but yet not many adults use it. Now, your imagination is one of your higher mental faculties, one of the mental faculties that we teach you. And when you really learn how to use that, along with your perception and your intuition and the other mental faculties that we go through, you can develop those faculties and you can create your world. Now, the first time I heard that, I thought, what a lot of rubbish. I think that quite a lot, you might have gathered. But then I started to think, and I started to wonder why we have an imagination. I mean, have you ever really asked yourself, why do I have the ability to see things on the screen of my mind that I haven't had yet, or seen yet, or done yet? You know, we all know what our heart's for, we know what our legs are for, we know what our lungs are for, but have you asked yourself ever why we've been given this mental ability to see things that we've never seen? And I hadn't, you know, I just knew that imagination was something little kids use when they're playing and pretending to be doctors or to fly to other planets. But there are other parts of us that change as we get older, as we no longer need them. So why do we, as adults, still have this ability to see things that aren't physically in front of us? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why you have that. It's to create what you want in the future. Now, sometimes when I say that, I lose people. Yeah, I can tell I've just lost them. How can you create something in the future? Well, without being able to do that, not even the most basic advancements would be possible. The future of our species is dependent upon us using our imagination to create the things we want and to create the things we need. Without imagination, we wouldn't have the wheel or the car or telephones or the internet. No one would have worked out how to irrigate land during dry spells, how to build roads, how to build houses. But we still hear people all the time as we're growing up telling us to stop daydreaming, to be realistic. You know, making things up in your head won't get you anywhere. But if I was to say to you, you've got another higher mental faculty that creates pictures on the screen of your mind of things that happened decades ago, would that seem as crazy? Not really, because it's called memory and we use that all the time and it's socially acceptable to do that. So why would imagination propelling you into the future to create the future you want be any more crazy than your memory propelling you back in time to see what happened in the past? You're just maybe not aware of it. You haven't come across it. We're conditioned not to use it the same as adults. So, you know, it's really important that you're constantly reviewing and reflecting on ideas and thoughts that you know, might be tempted to cast aside very easily. Now I'm going to get you to use your imagination, and we're going to do this exercise again. It's going to allow you to relax and to really create your own world, and we're going to do it right now. Okay, don't need to wait. So I'm going to play the visualization that some of you have already listened to, and I want you to sit back in your seat and totally relax. Okay, take whatever's off, take whatever's on your knees off, maybe take your coat off, you know, and just relax. Let's just start this from the beginning. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise now that's going to allow you to totally relax just for a few minutes and to really create your own world, to create that life that you really want to be living. And we're going to do it right now. We don't need to wait until you've already decided upon a set goal. So what I want you to do is to sit back, wherever you are, sit back in your seat and totally relax. Make sure you're in a space where nobody else is, so that nobody's going to be looking at you or distracting you or asking you anything. I just want you to be able to relax. This is just for you, for your own benefit. What I want you to do is to imagine for a few minutes your perfect life. And it doesn't matter whether you think it's achievable or not. It doesn't matter what you think anyone else would say about it, because nobody's going to know. I just want you to imagine just one day in your perfect life. I'm just going to say, I don't want you sipping cocktails on a beach all day, because that will get very boring. This is serious stuff. I want you to relax, and I just want you to think like you've never thought before. Allow yourself to open up your mind and imagine how your life would look if there were no restrictions and no limitations. Okay, so just take a few seconds to get comfortable and to relax and to close your eyes and just really allow yourself to get into this. Just take a couple of deep breaths and keep your eyes closed. I want you to imagine that you are now doing exactly what it is you want to be doing, how you really want to be spending your days. I want you to think about how you serve people. I want you to think about the people that you work with. How are those amazing relationships? How does it feel to be totally free to create, to do what you want to do, how you want to do it, with the people you want to do it with, without any restrictions? Think about how you're compensated. What does the bank balance look like? And then I want you to go and get into the car you've always wanted to drive. I want you to really feel the steering wheel, hear the sound of the engine. And then I want you to imagine yourself driving home to your most perfect home, the home you've always wanted, in the area you've always wanted to live in. I want you to drive up outside your home, and as you get out of your car, I want you to stand and look at it and really take it in. This is what you've created. As you walk up to the front door and you open it, what's the first smell that you experience? What's the first noise you hear? Just really take that in. Then I want you to take yourself off to the room that resonates with you most, the real you. Notice who's in the room with you. Notice who's in the home with you. Now I want you to walk down the hall and find a mirror on the wall. And I want you to walk up to that mirror and stand and look yourself dead in the eye. I want you to see yourself in the most perfect body, wearing the clothes you've always wanted to wear. Having a great smile on your face, really look at yourself in the eyes and be really proud of you. Allow yourself to accept that image. Take it in, really feel it. This is you. Then I want you to take yourself off to bed. You get into bed and you can notice who's with you, and if you're by yourself, enjoy it. How does it feel as your head hits the pillow, knowing that you get to do it all over again? This is the life you've created. Just feel that and really take it into every cell. Just allow that to keep seeping in. Enjoy the moment. Okay, you can open up your eyes. Oops. Okay. The question, oh, sorry, I don't know if that's whether that's skipped on. So the question I have is, are you living like this today? Is that your life today? And it might be, it might not be. And this is not intended to depress you. But, you know, I see people's faces when I do this live in workshops and in seminars, and the smiles on people's faces when they've got their eyes shut, it just totally melts my heart. And, you know, sometimes they're tears, sometimes they're good tears, sometimes they're bad tears. And it doesn't matter which to me, but it's really powerful, isn't it? And you all saw a picture, didn't you? You were all using your imagination. And how often do you do that? Have you ever even seen those pictures before? You know, I get a lot of people watching these webinars, coming to events, and they see things they've never, ever thought about before, but yet it pops into their mind. And I've worked with clients who, in this same exercise, have had these ideas. They've had these flashes of inspiration, and don't forget, inspiration is when you're literally in spirit. It's when you're connected to the real you, to your spirit. And then, you know, they've had these flashes of inspiration, and then they've gone out and done it, having never even given it any thought before. And that's why I absolutely love what I do. But if it's not the life you're living today, you've got to ask yourself why. And I will get serious about that. Because if it's not how you're living today, what are you going to do about it? Because whatever age you are now, it's gone pretty quickly, hasn't it? Now, I'm 44 and it has gone just like that. And before long, I'll be 64 and then 65, 66, 67. And the speed it passes is a little bit scary to me. So you've got to use your time on this earth. Napoleon Hill said, Earl Nightingale said, so many people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to death. Is that what you want to do? Do you want to tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to death? Or do you want to look back at the results you've achieved in all different areas of your life and feel satisfied, feel like you've done the things that you wanted to do? Well, let's talk a bit more about results and how they happen. So whatever your life is right now, think about your bank balance, think about the people you spend your time with, think about what you do. That's what I call your current results. It's your health, your relationships, your wealth. Let's just call them your results, your current results. Now, everyone's here for different reasons. So you just think about whatever's most important to you. I think you should consider all of them. But the question I would ask is, where did these results come from? So where did your current results come from? How did this happen? How have you ended up where you have ended up? How did you end up mixing with the people you're mixing with, doing the job that you're doing, in the relationship that you're in or not in a relationship? How did you end up settling for the income that you're earning? Or did you settle for it? And we have to reflect and we have to ask these hard questions, and they are hard questions. And a big part of you might be asking, oh God, what am I even doing on this webinar? Because it's not necessarily pleasant. But you've got to go there to get where you want to be. So results, how do they happen? Well, I never had a clue how results happen. I just went through life, and whatever happened, happened. And if it was good, that was great. And if it wasn't, I just had to deal with it. But, I didn't know how results happened. And I would say most people in here don't know how results happen either. And if you do, that's great. You might have already done a lot of work on this, but then you've got to ask yourself, if I know where my results are coming from, then why am I not getting better results? And the reason I'm so proud of the work that I do in my company and with working with Bob Proctor is that we focus on results, and we focus on results that stick, because results are what matters. And if you ever want to work with anyone to improve anything in your life, you've got to work with someone who's got the results to show for it. So results come from somewhere, and that's what we're going to teach you now. So wouldn't it be amazing to realize, this is why you're earning what you're earning. This is why you're in this relationship. This is why that's like that, and this is like this. Once you understand all those things, it gives you a lot of leverage. It gives you a lot of power to be able to change things. So there's two major things that you want to know if you're going to change the results in your life. Just two. You need to know where you are now. So this is me. This blue circle is what this is where I am now. This is my health, my relationships, the people around me. In the light blue square on the left, that's your current results. Then you've got to ask where you're going. So top right hand corner, dark blue circle, that's where you're going. Now you can say, well, I'd like to be over there, earning that amount of money, having that kind of relationship, experiencing that kind of health. So the picture that you just had in your mind during that visualization, that's the end goal, okay? That's where you are going. Now that seems pretty simple. And you might find yourself asking your clients or your colleagues at work this, when they come to you with a problem, you find out where they are and you put a plan together to get them where they want to be. It's very simple, very obvious, but if it's so obvious and so simple, why are so many people stuck? We do this all the time. We problem solve all the time. We work out what the current situation is, where we want to be, and we work out a plan to get there. So why is it so difficult to do that when we're talking about our own lives, when we're talking about our own businesses? Why are so many people totally stuck? If I know I'm here and I want to go there, why is that so hard? Because in theory, it's a pretty simple situation, but a lot of people are stuck. And stuck is a really good word to wrap around all of that stuff that we're going through, all of that stuff that we're trying and trying and trying really hard to do on a day-to-day basis that's just not getting us anywhere. And I hear it all the time. I'm just stuck. I want you to get me unstuck. And that's okay. We can do that. But most people think they're stuck because of goals. Okay, most people think that it's the goals that are wrong. So some people will come and say, I just don't have any proper goals. I don't really know what I want in life. And I think that's the problem. Okay, then other people come to me and they say they've got the goals are too big. They think that what they want is unreachable and they're wanting something they're never going to get, and they think that's the problem. But the truth is, when people first come to me, it doesn't actually matter what size goals they have or whether they have goals at all, because the goals aren't the problem. It's not where you want to get to that's the problem. Now, if anyone here has read the book The Secret or seen the film The Secret, now obviously Bob featured in that film. And it is a really, really good film. I would highly recommend that you watch it if you haven't. However, Bob always jokes that the problem with The Secret was it actually kind of left out the secret. And a lot of people have read that or seen that and they think, okay, I'll close my eyes and I'll think really hard. I'll visualize a red bicycle. I'm visualizing this red bicycle. I can see it in front of me. I can almost touch it. Okay, I'm still thinking about the red bicycle. Oh, damn, it doesn't work. What a load of rubbish, because the bicycle doesn't appear. And that's kind of where I was about 3 years ago. And I'm sure lots of you have got vision boards. Maybe you've tried to do affirmations, or maybe you've just read a lot about the law of attraction and you're just not getting it to work. Or often I come across people who've noticed small things happen in their life. I get a lot of people who say, oh, I manifested a car park space this morning. Or, but they've just not noticed the massive shift that they're looking for. And Bob tells us the reason why that is, and that's what I'm going to share with you here. And it all comes down to not where you want to go, not the thing that you want, but where you are now. Okay, it's where you are now that's holding you back. And that's because you've got some things holding you back. Now, what do you think? Let's think back to my story when I was stuck with that accounts business. When I was barely making ends meet with all that debt, even though I'd done all those courses and coaches and programs, and I desperately wanted things to be better. What do you think might have been holding me back? Now, some of it was fear. Some of it was my attitude. Some of it was, attitude was, I don't have time to do any more than I'm doing. I'm run ragged. I've got children. I've got housework to do. I've got, I'm running a business. I'm really stretched. Blah, da, 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 da. Money was holding me back. People around me were holding me back. I was surrounded by quite negative people who were fearful for me, who were worried I was going to get into more debt. There were lots and lots of things in my life that were all in harmony with who I was and where I was at that time. So, what do you think my mum would have said if I told her I was going to give up accountancy? If I told my relatives or my friends that I was leaving this accountancy profession that I'd studied for 10 years, and, it would take me so long to qualify and get all this experience. What a waste of a qualification. You can do any job you want with that qualification. But I had people around me that weren't really doing any better than me. In fact, I was probably doing the best out of all of us. So, there were a lot of things keeping me stuck. And similarly, if you want to get somewhere better, you've also got to start surrounding yourself with people who are doing better or who know better. If you remember that famous quote from Jim Rohn, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. I'm sure if you looked at the 5 people you spend most of your time with, your friends, your co-workers, your family, if you looked at their bank balance and their relationships and their health, they're probably all quite similar. And that's really important for you to become aware of. Now, the other big thing is this word, paradigms. What on earth is a paradigm? Well, your paradigm is the biggest reason why you're stuck. It's the biggest reason why you're not earning what you want to earn. It's the biggest reason why you can't shift that weight you've been trying to get rid of. The biggest reason why your relationship isn't the same as it was in the honeymoon period, or you can't find a relationship that you're really happy in. It's the hinge that the better side of life lives on, but I had never heard of a paradigm. And what I want you to do now is to ask yourself inwardly, if you were to stand up for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe come on live onto the webinar, would you be able to give a really good description of a paradigm? Would you be able to explain what they are, how they're formed, what impact they have on your life, how you can change them? Possibly not. And if not, then you really want to be paying attention, because if the paradigm's the biggest thing stopping you getting what you want in life, you're going to want to know what on earth it is. So that's what we're going to focus on now. So what is a paradigm? A paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. Now, when I do this live, I ask if there are any couples in the room. So obviously, I'm not doing that now. But what happens is I will ask one partner and I will say, okay, would you be able to, I don't want you to, but would you be able to give me a good rundown of your partner's routine on a morning? You know, would you know, like as soon as the alarm goes off, they do this, then they do this, then they do this. And, you know, whether it's your partner or it's your kids or it's yourself, if you want to be really introspective, you can take a look at yourself. But you know that as soon as your eyes open on a morning, without fail, you go into this pattern of behavior, you go into this routine, and that routine is talking you right through life. So on a morning, it might be that you get up, you turn the alarm off, you check you check your messages, see if anybody's sent you a message during the night time, you get out of bed, you go to the loo, you put your dressing gown on, you go downstairs, that's all habitual behavior, but that's just your morning routine. You have routines that take you all the way through life, and that's either a good thing or it's a bad thing. So we all have habitual routines, habitual patterns, and you've had them for quite a long time. And it doesn't matter how many times you say, I'm not going to do that anymore, or I'm going to change this. You don't normally do it, or you might do it for a few days, and then you snap back to your old ways. Now, this programming, this paradigm is built within you. And if we look a bit deeper, we'll actually realize that there's a whole load of habits, a whole load of beliefs. There's a multitude of them wrapped up within this little operating system that's going on in your subconscious mind. And the most annoying thing is that they're not even all yours. So mum and dad got together and conceived you. You got a little piece of mum's DNA and a little piece of dad's DNA. And then you were born and you took on all the things that you were surrounded with. So all the things you saw and heard and felt when you were small, they all got absorbed straight into your subconscious mind and went in to form your paradigm. And I'm sure there are things you do or things you say or facial expressions you catch in the mirror and you say, oh, that was just like my mum or just like my dad or whoever brought you into this world. I get it from my husband all the time. Oh, you look just like your mother when you did that. And that's it's that's how it is. I've picked up some great traits. My dad was an entrepreneur and he was always learning too. He was very confident at making decisions, very self-sufficient, but he also had some bad habits. He was very untrusting of people. He was very skeptical about a lot of things, a bit antisocial. And I picked up some of those traits too. And you pick these habits up as you grow up and you carry on through life. And unless you make a decision to consciously stop and change those habits, they are not going to budge. You just keep doing the same things over and over and over without even really thinking about it. Now, some of those things will be serving you and some of those things will not be serving you. Some will have served you well when you were younger, but they're not anymore. If you think of your iPhone or your PC, every few weeks or maybe every couple of months, I get a message to update the operating software on these things. Now, that's not because the current one is wearing out. It's because the environment they're operating in is constantly changing. There's new developments, there are new external things going on that affect how these devices work. They're constantly monitoring the external situation, monitoring the environment and upgrading to allow for that. And it means that the original operating system is no longer the best it could be. When it was created with the best information that they had at that time, but things have moved on. And we've become completely accustomed to that idea. It's totally normal for us to upgrade those things. And we know that if we don't update those devices, we won't get the best performances from them. Now, that makes total sense, I would say, to everyone on here. But when was the last time you updated your operating software? When was the last time you updated your mind and how you think? We upgrade our phones, we upgrade our cars, we upgrade everything else we own because we're conditioned to do that, but we're not really conditioned to update or upgrade ourselves. So this mental program inside you that was created decades and decades ago it's like a little sat nav, and it's just taking you through life and operating away And whether you know it or not, it is leading you down a path. Now, you're all heading towards something, and you've either decided where you're heading or you haven't. And if you haven't, circumstances are dictating where you're going. And that's why we go through life and we hit good things, we hit bad things, and we just kind of meander through life. We bounce off one thing into the next and bounce off that into something else. We're kind of almost drifting. Now, does anyone else feel like they're drifting a bit? So this programming is what's controlling it. Now, let's go a bit deeper into looking at all the areas this is affecting you, because I can tell you about this programming, but unless you really start to look at the effect it's having on you on a day-to-day basis, you might not be too bothered about it. So how is your paradigm affecting your results? That's what we really want to look at. So I'm not going to cover all of these. Oops. Slide. There we go. I'm not going to cover all of these today, but I just want to have a look at the biggest ones. So let's have a look at beliefs. Now, anyone here, I'm not going to ask you to put your hand up because you can't put your hand up, but I want you to ask yourself if you were taught that you have to work really hard and get really good grades at school if you want to earn a lot of money. You know, who was taught that people who have a lot of money are selfish or greedy? You know, who was taught that this big man in a red suit comes down the chimney every Christmas Eve with a sack full of presents? Now, isn't it interesting? Because I wonder if you still believe that a big man in a red suit comes down the chimney every Christmas Eve with a sack full of presents. And I wonder how many of the other things that you were taught you still believe. Okay, so we've all got a lot of different beliefs. Now, what is a belief? A belief is just an idea that you were exposed to over and over and over again over a significant period of time that's solidified into a fixed idea or a belief. So it's just repetition of an idea that has created that. It's just you hearing it over and over and over again. You know, if you've got kids, how many times after they were born do you think they had to hear the name before they realised it was their name? You know, if you've got a dog, how many times, I've got a dog, how many times do you think after you got them they had to hear the name before it realised it was their name? Quite a few. We were told about the Easter Bunny. We were told about the Tooth Fairy, and you believed it. You know, why wouldn't you believe it? Mum and Dad told us who we trusted. Everyone else around us acted like it was true. Grandparents, teachers, friends, they all just talked about it when you were a certain age. They just, you know, nobody let on that it wasn't real. So why wouldn't we believe what we were told by all those people? Now, as you grew up, you started to reevaluate things. You know, your friends started saying the Tooth Fairy wasn't real. Eventually, your parents admitted they'd been lying to you for 8 years. You know, I mean, when we look back now, it sounds quite sinister, but this is what happens. But you gradually start to realise that these things aren't actually true. So that's beliefs, and that's how they change. You know, they do change, and it's just repetition of an idea. Now, I always hear people saying, but I've got to be realistic, or, you know, but my reality is, don't come to me with, I've got to be realistic. Your reality is the reflection of your belief system and everything else that's going on in your paradigm. Okay, my daughter is 9 and she still just about believes in Santa. Okay, she believes it, so it's real. It's her beliefs that create her reality. As far as she's concerned, nobody's told her yet that it's not real, or that it's, you know, nobody's explained to what it actually is. So she just thinks that Santa's real because that's what she believes. If any of you have ever been scared of flying, you know, and I used to have a real fear of flying, you'll know that belief, you know, that belief that there's a good possibility you're not going to arrive at your destination, that's real. That is a real feeling. It has a real effect on your body. You know, it really affects how your body reacts. It doesn't matter how many people tell you you're safer in the plane than in a car, or how many videos you watch that explain how a plane flies and how falling out of the sky is virtually impossible. Logic just does not come into it. That deep-seated belief means that to you, reality is there's danger coming, and your body reacts to that belief. So it's whatever you believe, that's what forms your reality. So if you want to change your reality, you've got to change your beliefs. Now, working hard to earn good money, I was brought up with that too, but again, it's just a belief. And I've come to realize that you don't have to work hard to earn good money. In fact, if you look at the people who really seem to do the hardest jobs in life, quite often they're not earning very much money at all. So you have to work for satisfaction and let the money come from other places if you have to. And that's where we want to get you to, and that's why we teach about multiple sources of income. Now, if we move on to think about habits, so the second one on the left column on that slide, that's kind of a given. How many people know that they could be doing better? We all know that we could be doing better, but we don't do what we know we should be doing. And that's the most frustrating, annoying thing on earth. And we say it and say it and say it, and we still don't do it. Even though we know what we need to do half the time, we don't do it. And that's what we call the knowing doing gap, because we can know, but what we do is totally different. Now, our actions, our behaviours come from what I'm going to talk about later, your subconscious mind. In fact, 96 to 98% of all our actions and behaviours come from our subconscious mind. Now, that means that 96 to 98% of the time, we're not really thinking about what we're doing. The actions we're taking, the decisions we're making, it's not really in the conscious mind most of the time. So unless you're really thinking, really seriously concentrating, which we don't do most of the time, you're really just running on autopilot. It's like when you learn to drive a car. When you first learn, it's so much effort and it seems so difficult, and there seems to be so much to remember and to think about, and you're thinking, I am never going to get the hang of this, I'm never going to get the order right, seatbelt, gear, mirror, whatever order they're in. I can't even think about it now because I do it subconsciously. But eventually you get the hang of it, and now it's just like second nature. You just don't really have to think about it at all. If anybody's ever driven somewhere and thought, I don't actually remember the journey getting here, that's because you are driving on autopilot. Your mind can be off elsewhere, thinking about other things. You don't actually have to be thinking about the technical parts of driving, because your subconscious mind is doing it for you without you consciously thinking about it. You don't have to consciously think about putting your clothes on or brushing your teeth or making your coffee on a morning. But, start to notice these things. Notice how you brush your teeth tonight. Notice how you get dressed in the morning, and you'll realise that you do it exactly the same way every time without thinking about it. Now, the one on this slide that's changed my life the most, and the one I see changes my clients' life the most, is self-image. And we've done quite a lot of work so far this week on self-image. So what is self-image? A self-image is just an internal idea that you have about you. So if all our results in life are a reflection of our thinking, then I've got to really start to think about how I think about me. Now, I've studied this extensively. One of my favourite authors is Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and he wrote an amazing book called Psycho-Cybernetics, all about how self-image affects our results. And he stated that our self-image sets the boundaries and limitations of all our achievements in life. You can't outplay it, you can't outwork it, and you will never do better than what you believe you can do. So if you stop to think about that, you've got to ask yourself, what do I believe I'm capable of right now? Do I actually believe deep down that I can earn this much money? Do I think like that person? Probably not. So this self-image forms a part of our paradigm, and again, it's like a little sat-nav, and it really is hardwired, and it will just keep giving you whatever you see yourself as. Now, I don't know if there's anyone on this webinar who works in sales, but if I go into a car showroom and I say to the manager, who is the real superstar salesperson in here? And I know to say that because there is always one. And they'll say, oh, it's Joe Bloggs over there. He absolutely smashes his targets every month. And I say, oh, right. Why is that? How does he do that? And the manager will say, well, I don't know really. He's just really on it, or he just seems to have the gift of the gab. And they'll say, oh, what about Jack over there? How's he doing? Oh, he's not doing so great. But Joe Bloggs is absolutely killing it. Now, these two salespeople have had exactly the same training. They've had tens of thousands of pounds of sales training. They're selling the same car in the same showroom to the same people at the same price, wearing the same blue suit. So why is Joe Bloggs doing so well and Jack's not doing so well? It's because Joe Bloggs has got a great self-image. Now, Joe Bloggs doesn't normally recognise this. In fact, if I go over to him and ask him, if I say, how come you're doing so much better than everyone else, Joe? He won't know. He'll just say, oh, I don't know. I just seem to have a knack. And then I go over to Jack and say, what's going on, Jack? He'll say, oh, I don't know. I know what to do and I'm doing what they're telling me. I just don't seem to be able to make it work. And then when I go back to the manager and I say, if you could get Jack and Tommy and Brian and Lucy all selling the same amount as Joe Bloggs, would you be a happy manager? Of course they would. And you can, but you've got to understand where these results are coming from. Now think about that in your life. Are you in an industry or a profession or a business where you're doing everything you're being told to do and you're taking loads of action and you're just not getting the same results as other people in the same profession? Probably. So you've got to see yourself and believe yourself to be a great salesperson. Most people don't even like that title, salesperson. And again, that then goes into the belief system. What have you heard about salespeople? What are your beliefs about salespeople? So when you really start to look at this, you can see that self-image has a huge impact on our lives. Now, if we move away from sales and business, anyone that might be here tonight for personal reasons, maybe you want to release some weight or you want a better relationship, well, this self-image is like a little thermostat. Now, your mind and body are very, very clever. They are programmed to keep you safe and to keep you on a safe, consistent path. So if you get a bit hot, your body recognizes that and you start to sweat and it brings you back to the desired state. If you get a virus, your temperature goes up to fight that virus and to bring your body back to the desired state. Now, the way our organs are designed to work is set, and the desired state of our body is set in our genetic makeup. But when it comes to our actions, to a huge degree, your self-image dictates what that desired state is. Now, this is really important to understand. It's the self-image that dictates what that desired state is. It's not what you want that dictates your desired state. It's what you believe. So let's say, for example, you want to lose some weight and you go to the gym and you go on a diet and you lose a few pounds and you're really pleased. And then within a few days, you're starting to crave. Pretty soon, you're nibbling away at the kids' fish fingers when you make the dinner and you're treating yourself to a glass of wine and then you get the munchies and you tap the biscuit tin and you hate yourself for doing it because you know you shouldn't be, but you do it anyway. And you start this cycle of habitual eating. Why do we do that? Why, when we've been good for a few days, do we suddenly start doing those things that we know are counterproductive to what we want? It's because you've gone off course. You've got this internal program that says you are this and this and this and this. And then when you go off course because you did these things and you lost some weight, that little self-image alarm went off and went, oh no, we're going off track. We need to get back on track. We've got to maintain the norm because this is how we're programmed. So then you beat yourself up because you've eaten something you didn't want to eat. And that then feeds a negative self-image and we start all over again. And that's not a great way to live. But the truth is, we have the ability to change that self-image and we have to change that self-image if we're going to change the results we're getting in life. Now, other creatures have a similar cyber mechanism. Think of a squirrel, for example. A squirrel's programmed to be a squirrel. and to eat squirrel type food and do squirrel type things, and it will never be anything other than a squirrel. You can't look at a rabbit and say, I quite fancy the life that the rabbit's leading. I think I'll go be a rabbit instead and eat rabbit food and live in a burrow. The animals don't have the ability to change their programming or change the way they live their lives. But we do. And we do that by first changing our internal self-image. Now, the last one we're going to look at on this slide today is money. Your paradigm affects your money in a similar way to the way it affects your self-image, insofar as you have a financial thermostat. You're not earning what you're earning because that's what you want to earn. You're earning what you're earning because that's what you know how to earn. And it's what you've earned probably, I would guess, for the last, 3 to 5 years maybe. You might have gone up a bit one year, down a bit and up again, but you probably haven't made any huge quantum leaps. Does that sound about right? Just kind of stays around the same level. Now, that's not what you want, so what do? Oh, I've got to work harder, I've got to work more hours, and you do all this stuff, you try really hard to increase your income, and then you look back at the end of the year and you're like, well, I still don't have that much. Because as I said earlier, you can't outperform this thermostat. So if you want to earn more money, you've got to upgrade that financial thermostat. Now, when Bob Proctor told me that, it just seemed so far from reality. But he said, you could be earning what you earn in a year from your current business in a month if you change this programming. And I went, no, I can't. I know you mean well, and I know other people probably can, but I can't do that. And he said, what, you don't believe you can do it? And I said, no. And he said, okay, well then you won't. And I went, well, hang on a minute. Well, wait a minute. And he said, oh, so you want to? And I said, well, I'd like to have a go at it. And he said, well, you've got to believe it. And you've got to not just say you believe it, you've got to really believe it. And I didn't believe it. But again, I believed that he believed it. And I knew my way wasn't working because I was just going round and round in circles. So I decided I was just going to listen and learn and do what I was told. And if you do that and recreate this, you can change your results too. Now, if I was to ask you, what is one habit in your life that you know is holding you back? What would it be? And the top answer that I usually get is procrastination. And I'm sure everyone can relate to that. If you were to just stop procrastinating and do all the things you say you're going to do and all the things you know you should be doing, do you think that would make a difference in your life? Do you think it would make a difference in your business? Do you think it would make a difference in your relationships? Yeah. I know if the only thing we all went away and changed was that we stopped procrastinating in our lives, that would make a huge difference to all our results. But you've got to believe that it's going to make a difference or you won't stick with it. And that is the difference. You've got to believe it. You've got to believe you can achieve the results you want, and you've got to change those habits that are holding you back. And that is what we call a paradigm shift. And those of you who are joining me for the Paradigm Shift live stream event next week, you will see all this in action. You'll see Bob talking from the stage about this, and we'll cover all these issues. If you haven't signed up for the Paradigm Shift, I would highly, highly recommend you do that. You can have a look at the details at www.emmahague.com/PS for Paradigm Shift, or Papa Sierra. So www.emmahague.com/PS. We're going to be in a group together in a private Facebook group that I've set up. We'll be watching it together. It's a 2.5-day seminar. You get the recordings for 14 days afterwards as well if you can't watch it live. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal event. But a paradigm shift is when you start to believe you can achieve the results you want and you change those habits that are currently holding you back. And that's what we teach people to do. In fact, we are the only company really that focuses on the root cause of results. And that's why I'm just so excited to share it with you. So, because if you accept it and you start to reevaluate your beliefs about the situation, your belief about the situation will change, just like it did with Santa. Okay. So let's move on. Now, we're going to talk about the laws. Now, whether you believe them or not, the laws of the universe are a thing. Okay, now sometimes I start talking about laws of the universe and I just lose people. You know, I just know straight away, and that I've lost some people. Some people really get it, some people just don't. Now, whether you get it or not, we're going to talk about it because it's a real thing. Emerson said the law of cause and effect is the law of all laws. So this is what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at the law of cause and effect. Now, you might have a different approach, whether it's spirit or religion, or maybe science is more your thing. You know, science was kind of more my thing. This slide is all about the same thing, and we'll look at it from a few different angles. So there's a law of harvest. Okay, so obviously, law of harvest is more a kind of religious concept, and the law of harvest is, you know, you reap what you sow. That's the law of harvest. Now, maybe not into religion, that's okay. I'm not here to preach to you, and I'm not particularly religious either. So maybe you believe in karma. Okay, what goes around comes around. Same thing, law of karma. And then if we go back to science, law of cause and effect. So for every cause, for every effect, there is a cause. For every cause, there is an effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, which is an effect. So it doesn't really matter what side you're coming at this from. All of this stuff is exactly the same. It all works the same. What we put out is what we get back. Okay? What we put out is what we get back. All of those, law of harvest, what you sow is what you reap. What goes around comes around. Every effect has a cause. Okay, it's all about what you put out. But what is the thing that we're putting out? Well, it's energy. Okay, we're talking about energy because you are energy within a physical body. You're actually a spirit, and that's energy living inside a physical body. So this energy that we're putting out, you know, have you ever walked down a street, maybe when you're on holiday, somewhere nice and warm, and you're looking for somewhere to eat, and you stick your head in one place and you say, no, I'm not sure about that. So you come out and you look in another place and you go, no, I don't think so. Then you go back to the first one and you go, yeah, okay, let's go in here. Okay, you know, I think we've probably all done that to some extent. But what is it that we're sussing out when we do that? What is it we're doing when we put our head in and kind of have a look around? Can we really describe it? You know, it just kind of felt nicer. It's atmosphere, or it's ambience. You know, it's that nice feeling that you get in some places. Now, whether you know that or not, what it actually is different levels of energy. You are an intuitive being and you're picking up on that. You're picking up on those different levels of energy. It's like when you go home and you've had a really good day at work and good things have happened and you've been productive and you skip in the front door, and the minute you get in, you're like, uh-oh, I've done something wrong. And you ask your wife or your husband or your partner and they say, no, it's fine, everything's fine. And it takes a while to get it out of them, but you sensed something was wrong pretty much as soon as you walked in. You felt it. And that's energy. That's you picking up on the difference between your positive energy and their negative energy at that time. Or, you know, if you think about a busy day in town when you're Christmas shopping, or when you're at the airport, you just feel shattered. Or if you're on a busy train, it makes you feel exhausted, and you can't really give a good reason why. But what it is it's all the different levels of energy bounding around out of different people when you're surrounded by everybody. So it's really important to learn about energy and learn about how it affects us if you want to change the results that you're experiencing. Now, these laws that I spoke about earlier, I'm not going to go through them all because there are quite a lot and we don't have the time today. And you know, the laws of the universe are laws I would, you know, if you're not joining us in Thinking into Results, I would strongly recommend that you look into studying them on your own. They are Very important because they are 100% present 100% of the time. They are affecting you and what you do on a daily basis, on an hour-to-hour basis. It's really important that you understand them. So I'm not going to go through them all, but if you're interested in making money, you'll be interested to know that there is a law of compensation. Okay, there is a law that governs how much money you earn. Well, isn't that exciting? Because just like the law of gravity, this law is 100% accurate and 100% present at all times. So if there's a law that governs how much money you make, you kind of want to understand that law. Now, that law states that the amount of money you earn will always be in direct relation to three things. Okay, so the amount of money you earn will always be in direct relation to the need for what you do. Okay, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Just those three things. They are the only three things you need to concentrate on if you want to earn more money. So think about a football player. Here we've had Premiership football players come through the Thinking to Results programme and they earn crazy money. Why? Why do they earn crazy money? Well, look at the slide. Need. There's a huge need for what they do. They're really good at it and they're really hard to replace. And they will earn more money the better they get. Now that's football and you might be thinking, well, that's all very well, but my boss pays me. Well, that's where your money's coming through currently, but that's not what's really going on. So you've got to think about what you really want to do. And then you want to get really good at it because essentially, generally speaking, there's always going to be some need for what you want to do. So that's number one, kind of taken care of. There's always going to be a need for what it is you want to do. Number two is your ability to do it. We'll just skip that one for a minute. The difficulty in replacing you, number three, is directly relates to your ability to do it. It depends on how good you are. Okay, so, replacing you is going to be really difficult if your ability is great. If you're fantastic at what you do, it's going to be difficult to replace you. So that's number three taken care of. So really, your only job, your only concern is to focus on your ability to do it, on the results that you get. You need to make sure that you are absolutely the best you can be at what you do. Now, where do these results come from? How do you make sure that you are being the best you can do? You concentrate on getting the best results, and your results come from your actions. Now, what governs our actions and our behaviours? Our mind does. Let's just move on to these next slides. Okay. So there we go. So your results are there in the big circle, and it's your actions that determine your results. So what dictates your actions? Your mind and your body dictates your actions. And actually, it's your subconscious mind that dictates your actions. So I said before that 96 to 98% of our actions and behaviours are all subconscious. They're things we just do automatically without thinking about them. Now we're going to start looking at the mind here, and most people don't really understand what the mind is. So if I was to say to you, what is the first thing you think of when I say, let's think about the mind? What's the first picture you see in your head when you think about the mind? Now, most people will say brain. Okay, I hear that all the time, but the brain is not the mind. Most people don't know what the mind is. Most people don't know what energy is. Even if you ask scientists, they can't really say with any kind of certainty what energy actually is. It just is. And that's okay. Most people don't know what God is, but they'll tell you whether they believe in it or not. Now, we would say the mind is an activity that's powered by the brain. And again, I'm not going to go too deeply into that on here, but I want to give you some understanding of how it works. So how can we learn how to change our mind and change our results if we don't even know what the mind is? Well, in 1934, Dr. Thurman Fleet came up with this diagram that we use today. Now, Dr. Fleet was a holistic doctor who became really concerned that so many people were treating symptoms and not the root cause of results. And we still see this now. You know, how many people have been diagnosed with a medical condition, been prescribed drugs to manage it by the doctor instead of trying to find an underlying cause? How many times do we just deal with symptoms in our own lives on a day-to-day basis instead of tackling the root cause of the problems? And when it comes to looking at results, the root cause of those problems is in the mind. Now, when Bob Proctor got hold of this diagram, he was able to understand how he had changed, because he'd come from having no money, no education, no business experience, and he transformed himself into this incredibly wealthy business owner. And it was all down to this idea that we're going to look at now. So let's say that that's the mind and that's the body. Okay, now we all know that when we think something, we then go and do it. But I just want to take this a little bit deeper. Okay. So we think, and then we feel, and that makes us do something. Okay, so what we feel makes us do something. Now, that's a pretty basic concept. If anyone here did any kind of behavioral therapy training, you'll recognize that concept. But I want to explain to you why we do that and how it's controlling you. So if we think about you when you were born, okay, this is your subconscious mind. This is you, little stick person, and your subconscious mind was totally open. Your conscious mind hadn't developed yet. So everything you experienced, everything you heard, everything you felt went straight into that subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind has absolutely no ability to accept or reject anything. It just absorbs everything it's given. And that goes to make up your paradigm. So young children and babies that are given a positive, encouraging environment to grow up in, they are absorbing positive feelings, positive thoughts, positive views of the world, and that goes straight into their subconscious mind and makes up a positive paradigm. And they grow up to be positive, confident people, and they grow up to believe that the world is a positive, encouraging place, and they expect good things. Young children that are abused or criticised or they're constantly put down, they grow up to believe that everything on the outside is bad, and they'll expect bad things to happen to them because that's all they've known. So you are absolutely a product of a combination of your genetic upbringing and your environment. But it doesn't have to be that way. Now, the mind has got two parts that I want to touch on. And if you remember nothing else from this evening or from this webinar, please remember this. This concept is so important and it forms the very basis of everything that we teach. Okay, so you have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Now, that's as deep as I'm going to take you through those two parts today. There are lots of different parts of the mind, but for our purposes, these are the two I want you to focus on. And then we have the body. So mind is energy, and energy works through our body. So your body is a mass of energy vibrating at an incredibly high speed on a continual basis. The molecules are just going crazy in there. And it's the body that moves and creates action. Now, your conscious mind has the ability to choose, originate, accept, or reject thoughts and ideas. So think about that for a second. Your conscious mind is your thinking mind. You can choose thoughts, you can create new ones, and you can accept or reject thoughts that come into your mind. So let's just say you didn't have much self-confidence, and there's 10 people in front of you listening to you speak, and 9 of them say, "That was brilliant, you're just amazing." And then one person says, "That was rubbish, you shouldn't be doing this." Who do you listen to? Well, if you've got really low self-esteem, you're just so conditioned to believing you're no good that you completely ignore what the majority have said and you internalize the negative comment, and that's all you can think about. All you can think about is the one person who said you were rubbish. And that then feeds back into the negative self-image and is just a vicious circle. Now, as I said, the subconscious mind cannot reject. It takes on everything that you give it. And the most fascinating part is your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's made up. Now really think about that. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's really happening and what's imagined. It doesn't have a Scooby-Doo whether you're really successful or not, whether you've got really, you've got millions of dollars in the bank or not. So if you were to start to really understand the mind, and I were to teach you how to, say, choose a thought or originate a thought that you live that life instead of just kicking it out, and I taught you how to impress that idea onto your subconscious mind and change that little mental blueprint, you're going to get really different results. So you've got to think about what's controlling you and what's controlling your results. Because this energy is pulling you regardless of what's going on in your conscious mind. It's your subconscious mind that's pulling you in whatever direction it's pulling you in. Now, the paradigm lives in the subconscious. So it really doesn't matter if you want something. As I said, if it's not in harmony with your paradigm, it ain't going to happen. So we can reason and we can want, that's in the conscious mind, but the paradigm always wins. The paradigm will block any actions that you need to take. It will block your body doing what you need to do. And if you're wanting something different to what you're used to, or something you don't genuinely believe you can have, the paradigm steps in and goes, no, you can't do that. Just stay here, stay safe where you are. What if this happens? What if that happens? Fear sets in, and fear keeps you stuck. Fear, F-E-A-R, is false evidence appearing real. Fear is just an emotion, but you're being controlled by it. Now, the opposite to fear is faith. And both ask you to believe in something you can't see. Now, you can't see love, but we believe in that. And so many things we can't see, but we believe them anyway. But yet, when I ask you to step out on your goal, on your dream, I know you can feel it when I ask you to visualize that goal, but you let the fear creep back in, and that will continue over and over and over. Okay, Einstein said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, it's pure physics. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to show you or talk you through a diagram that will hopefully bring some clarity to you around that. Now, I normally do this on a whiteboard. I don't have a whiteboard to do that, so you're going to have to use your imagination while I talk you through this. So there's always positive energy and there's always negative energy. And let's just say that energy as I know it works on frequencies. So if this is totally new to you, I want you to think of energy as being on little tracks. Now you might want to imagine like a music stave in front of you, lots of horizontal lines. Now, people that have negative energy, what are they normally like? Well, they're not that motivated, they're not very productive, they're not very happy, usually they're not very healthy, and the bank balance isn't usually that great either. People with really great positive energy are really productive, so they usually make better money. They're really motivated, they always seem to be happy, and they usually seem healthier too. So if you imagine the negative people are down the bottom of that music stave, those tracks, those horizontal tracks, a positive person might be on the very top line of that track, okay? The positive energy is at the top, the negative energy is at the bottom. Now, most people are somewhere in the middle. Okay, they have good days and bad days. They go up and down. And can anyone relate to that? When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's rubbish. And this is called living through circumstance, because you don't know how to control your energy. You're letting outside circumstances dictate how you feel and what you do, and you're just kind of going with the flow. And these laws are working all the time, and they're either working for you or they're working against you. But if you're not aware of that, you just kind of keep being carried along. Now, there are people right down the bottom of that music stave, right down the bottom on the bottom line, that I call mood hoovers. And they are the people that, those friends and relatives that when they ring you, your heart kind of sinks a bit, because, they've got some kind of trauma going on. It's going to tell you something bad that's happening, or, something that's happened again, and when you speak to them, what do they say? Nothing ever goes right for me. You'll never guess what's happened now. If something's bad, it's going to happen to me. If something bad's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. They're talking about the results, and they keep attracting all this stuff. And of course, they don't blame themselves. They blame other people. They blame their employer, the government, the partner. But they're stuck on this frequency, and that's the paradigm keeping them stuck there. And then we all know or see people who are way up at the top of the music stave. They were right up on that top line, and everything seems to go right for them. They always have money, they're always doing great things, and life is just really good for them. But most people are somewhere in the middle, and we don't even know why. Now, I don't care where you are on that music stave, on those tracks, but you need to understand that you get to choose where you are on there. And that's fun, because I was down at the bottom. I was right down on that bottom line, and I wanted to be right up at the top there. But I was asking the same question that I hear all the time now. But how am I going to do that? How am I going to earn the money I want to earn? How am I going to have the nice house I want when I've got such a terrible credit rating? How am I going to meet the woman of my dreams? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And the answer I kept hearing from Bob was, oh, the how doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about the how yet. You don't need to know the how yet. You'll work out the how when you've decided what you want. So flipping frustrating. It got me really annoyed, because these people were telling me I could have anything I want, but they couldn't tell me how. And they couldn't tell me how to work out how. And it was only when I started to understand how the how comes into play that everything made sense. Now, I don't have time to go into it in depth tonight, and to be fair, it's a free webinar, so I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but wait till you hear this. Let's just say you're somewhere down the bottom on that music stave, on those tracks, and maybe you're saying, I don't know how, or I don't know what my goal is, or but am I this, or but am I that. Okay, you're there on that frequency, and you will only get what's on that frequency. Okay, now do you think the answer to your question is on the same frequency as the question? No. So stop asking the same question over and over and over, expecting a different answer. Stop doing the same things over and over and over and expecting a different result. You have got to change your mind, literally. You've got to stop and realize that everything you're attracting into your life is in harmony with your paradigm. Now, you've got to release any guilt. You've got to release any bad feelings you might have about that. You've got to release any anger that might have if somebody says to you, it's your paradigm that's causing your results. Okay, it's not a blame game. It's not saying you deserve what you're getting. It's a fact that your paradigm is creating your current results. And if you've never heard of a paradigm before, then the alarm bell should be going off for you anyway. Now, the beauty of what I do and the beauty of what Bob taught me was, well, I want to live up here. I want to live up there. I want to live up on that top line. So how do I get up there? Well, I've got to raise my frequency. I've got to get my energy levels up. And I'm talking about spiritual energy, not physical energy. I've got to get my spiritual energy levels up. And when I get up there to that top line, what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to work out the how, and I'm going to attract the people I need, and I'm going to attract the time and the money and the opportunities and the ideas and the thoughts that I need. And they all come to me when I get up to that right vibrational level and I get to work less. Doesn't that sound good? Wouldn't you like to live life up there? So that's a really good representation of the different levels of frequency. And another way to think of it is, let's say the top line on that imaginary music stave is radio 1 and the bottom line is radio 2. Okay, so everything on the bottom line is radio 2's frequency and everything on the top line is radio 1's frequency. I can't here to expect radio 2 music on a radio 1 frequency. So if you want to start getting answers, if you want to start getting solutions or you want to start to raise your potential and create new ideas, you've got to upgrade your mind and you've got to raise your frequency level. See, that's what Einstein was talking about. And I think that representation is brilliant, because then when you get to the top, you can just keep on going. You know, so many possibilities. And you need to remember that opportunities are always all around you. Everything that will ever be here, everything that will ever be, is already here. You know, energy is 100% present in all areas at all times, and everything is made of energy in different forms. You know, you are always in the right place at the right time, but we're not always willing to step out and see what would happen if we take the opportunity. We're not always consciously aware of the opportunity. How many times have you been in the right place at the right time and you haven't taken action? How many times did you want to go for a promotion and someone less qualified than you got it? How many times did you want to ask someone out and you didn't, and now they're marrying your best friend? You know, your ability to live the good life all comes down to awareness. That is it. It's awareness. And your mind and your paradigms have absolute control over that awareness. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how aware you are of what's going on and what's possible. So we're nearly done, but let's just say this is you, and let's just think about how you got to this webinar today. You know, how did you get to this event? And you can look back and you can say, well, I came through the 5-day challenge and I found the 5-day challenge through an ad, or I was looking on Eventbrite, or somebody told me about it. Or even in life, you know, you can ask, how did you end up where you are? And you can look back and you can connect the dots in the past quite easily. Whoops. But most people think we can't look forward and physically see dots ahead of us. Oh, I've missed some slides, look. That would have been useful. Not to worry. Okay. Stay with the slides for the diagram we've spoken about, but it's so much more useful if you've imagined that, isn't it? I didn't think we had those slides on here. That's a shame. Not to worry. Okay, so you can look back in life and work out how you got somewhere. Okay, you can look back and connect the dots in the past quite easily, but most people think we can't look forward and physically see dots ahead of us. But we can if we use our mind to help us, and that's what I help people achieve, you know, to open up the mind to see what's possible, to think big, to go to the high, and to really create what it is that you want. And what happens then is you go to do that, and we start to doubt, we start to worry, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, maybe when the kids are older, and if we do that enough, it starts to disappear. So do all the goals and all the dreams, and we keep doing what we've always done, and we keep getting what we've always got, and we stay stuck. And you might still be struggling to see how this all works with money. Well, it might just be that you're not aware of how to make more money, but if you started mixing with people that think like this, that think the way that we think in our community, not the mood hoovers that will bring you down, they know the opportunities, they know the things you can achieve, and all breakthroughs in life have been made by people who think just a little bit differently to the masses. You know, the Wright brothers, everyone thought they were nuts when they said they were going to build a metal bird that would fly people around the world, but thank goodness they persevered. Now, the lovely thing about what we teach is that I can show you how to get to that top frequency line. I can show you how to get anything you want. And I say that with the utmost confidence, with every cell in my body, because I've done it and I see my clients do it regularly. And even if you don't want to take my word for it, this has been around for hundreds of years. So you've really got to think about, where do you want to go? When we get there, as Steve Jobs says, we can always look back and connect the dots. So you've just got to hope that going forward, they'll also start to connect, and they will. And making sure they're taking you where you want to go is much easier if you've got a pathway or a system to follow, because being successful doesn't involve a secret. There is an actual system to follow. And when you get there, you'll realize that you could actually have gone there. You could have gone past there, and then we just do it all over again. And that's the best part, because I've just gone right up that music stave, and I watch my clients do the same, and that is a wonderful process. So as we bring this in for a landing, I know there's something within you that wants to do better, to be more, to have more. And when you start connecting to that real you start getting pulled out of bed in the morning. You start to really see that everything begins to come towards you. Everything you're seeking is also seeking you. And that is absolutely incredible. That is what helps you to work out how you're going to do what you want to do and how you're going to earn more and work less. Steve Jobs said, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And whenever the answer's been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Now, how many days has it been? How many months has it been? How many years has it been that you've been doing the same thing day in, day out and getting the same results? If today was my last day, would I want to be doing this? Absolutely. I absolutely 100% love what I do. I love helping people. I love serving people. And most of all, I love watching them create a life that they love, just like I'm doing. And you're no different. So at the end of the day, it comes down to a decision. And when you make a decision, your mind flips literally onto a different frequency because, as I said, the answer is not at the same place that you're at. So what decision are you going to make? And are you going to make a decision at all? Because if you don't, that's called indecision, and that's a decision in and of itself. And that's just sending a message to the universe that, no, I don't want this, keep me stuck where I am. And whether it's a day or a week or a month or a year, you will stay where you are until you make a decision. Aren't you fed up of waiting to see what the price tag says? How many times do you go into a shop and see something you like, and then you see the price and go, oh no, it wouldn't suit me anyway? We do it all the time. So what are you going to do today? Because when this webinar finishes, if you haven't decided that you're going to do something to make you change, you're just going to go back into what you've always done, getting the results you've always got. So I hope that this has resonated with you today. I hope that you've learned something about chat paradigms and that you've committed to change your paradigm. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed myself. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to leave you with Bob. You will see a slide at the end where you can book some time in my diary to have a chat about your own situation. I would love for you to do that, but I will leave you with Bob for now.
Well, there you go. Now think of this for a moment. Have you any idea what could happen to you, to your way of thinking in your life over a 6-month period? Now think of this. We invest in everything under the sun. We invest in clothes, we invest in our cars, we invest in our gardens, we invest in our houses. Very few people invest in themselves. You see, the thing I learned as I started to study this book, every dime I spent on me, I would get back tenfold and very, very quickly. If you really want to change your life, don't ask yourself, can you do it? Just like that, make up your mind to do it. If you have to borrow the money from your grandmother to do it, I say that because that's where I used to borrow the money, then borrow it and fix everything in your life. Learn how you can multiply your income. Learn how you can live in a healthier body. Learn how you can have more meaningful relationships. You see, life can be absolutely incredible, but we have to become aware of how to make it that way. You and I have the ability to take one of these things in our hand and write our own ticket. I'm telling you, invest in yourself. It's the best investment in the world. You are God's highest form of creation. If you're stuck, if you're not really making the progress you want to, start. Get involved in what I call exponential growth. Most people are involved in linear growth, if there's any at all. They go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Exponential growth is when you go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, boom, boom, boom. And it just keeps getting better. We put it together. There's over 50 years of research. There's people all over the world use this. Make sure you're next. Don't ask a person beside you what they think, what they're going to do. What are you going to do? Follow that quiet voice from within. Now listen, when you go to step out and do this, the old paradigm is going to try and hold you back. Just say, get out of here. I'm doing this. I'm growing. Try it. You'll love it.